Yes, guys, good evening, one and all. Welcome to a very, very special edition of your R&R Revelation show. Don't adjust your sets. Reece David Evans has not gained beauty and glamour over the last 24 hours. I am joined by legendary Welsh broadcaster, Mr. Bryn. Welcome back. Absolute pleasure and a delight to have you again, mate. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, very good, thank you. I hope you're well as well, and everybody who's joining us.
Yeah, 100%. All good, mate. I obviously messaged you a little while ago before this, and this was always on my bingo card to get in before the Welsh game. So extremely grateful for you taking time to come and share with us, mate. As I said, obviously done a pre-recorded last time, so a little bit different with a live show. I know we'll have lots of questions and comments along the way, so I have prepared Bryn for this, so feel free to get your questions into him. Before we start talking Wales, what I would love to start off with, if I may, is talk about the sad passing of Roger Speed, who obviously unfortunately passed away not so long ago. I know, obviously, Bryn, you've been a close friend of the family for a large number of years. Firstly, my condolences to yourself and obviously the family, of course. But I suppose, how are you, and how's things with it?
Well, it's very sad, and I know Roger's not been very well for a long time. So there is an element, I have to say, I think, from conversations I've had, that in a way that this is a release, because Roger's quality of life was diminished. But it's good to have the opportunity to talk about it, because he's kind of one of the unsung heroes, Rog. He was so important in Gary's development as a young footballer. He was a huge Wales fan. Some of my best memories of Roger are bumping into him in places around Europe when he was out with there's a crew of lads from D-side and around where Gary grew up, who used to go and watch, in fact still do go and watch all the Wales games, and Roger was part of that crew. They were very close, and Roger and Gary were very, very close. So I'd go and have a few drinks with Rog the night before a game or whatever, and just a lovely fella. And I got to know him pretty much at the same time I got to know Gary, and we used to commentate, me and a guy called Norman Hunter, many people may remember, as a Leeds United legend. He used to be my co-commentator, and we would sit in the front row of the director's box in the West Stand. That was our commentary position. And while Gary was playing, because that's when I started covering Leeds United, and at half time, this guy would walk past and he'd stop for a chat, and it was Roger. It was Gary's dad, and he was on his way to get a pint at half time or a drink at half time or whatever, and he'd stop and have a little chat with the pair of us, and always had a good laugh. And through those conversations, I got to know Rog down the years, and so yeah, we were in contact with each other and saw each other on Wales trips and Wales games and stuff. And then we met in very, very different circumstances, because I have some really powerful memories of Roger, and unfortunately, some of them are linked to that tragic event, the loss of his son. Unbelievable. Just you cannot comprehend how that must have felt for him. And the first time I saw him after the news had broken about Gary was the following weekend. There was a game at Goodison, Everton game, and Sky Sports News had dispatched me to cover the game, to actually cover the match. But there were going to be there was a memorial planned before the game, so we'd be reporting on that as well. And I walked into Goodison with Barry Horn, a good pal of mine, obviously the ex-Wales player and former Evertonian. And Barry was there to watch the game. And as we walked into the reception area at Goodison together, that moment will stay with me forever, because it just, what do you say? So we had a big hug in reception at Goodison, but it was it was very, very powerful. And then I mean, I can't speak highly enough of Roger. He was just a brilliant guy. He'd been a fireman. He'd been a brave man. He'd done a dangerous job. He had a wonderful sense of humor, and he was just a great guy to be around. And then he'd suffered this unbelievable tragedy. But you know what? Even in the midst of that, I was working on the Wales-Costa Rica game, the game that was set up as a tribute to Gary's memory.
Yeah.
And in the build-up to that, the Sky producer, said, would I get some preview material together? So I thought, well, I suppose I could ask Roger, and if he'd do something. And so I got in touch with Rog, and he said, yeah, of course. And it was just that was his reaction. He just said, yeah, of course, I'll help. Yeah. And so we met up at Wrexham's training ground. He was bringing Ed, Gary's son, along. He was playing, and we found a quiet room and we sat down together. One of the hardest interviews I ever did, because of the circumstances, but whatever. And I just thought that was a mark of the man, because even in this most terrible tragedy, he was still wanted to be helpful, and wanted to talk, and wanted to say things that might be useful to people in the aftermath, having suffered this awful thing. And that was he came to sit next to me for the Costa Rica game. So rather than go and sit in the posh seats, Rog brought Ed and Tommy, Gary's two lads, and they sat down with me where I sat in my report position down by the side of the pitch. Cardiff City there was a drink in the hotel, the St David's Hotel, afterwards, and it ended up with me and Roger and Chris Coleman. Throughout everything, Roger somehow kept going, and I don't know how he did it. Unbelievable. The courage he kind of showed to just keep going. And then later on, I was able to help a little bit, because I hosted some golf days that they did in Gary's memory to raise money for relevant charities, mental health charities. So that's how Rog kept going. And Carol, who's Roger's wife, who I met a few weeks ago, and we had a good chat. So Roger and Carol kind of threw themselves into the concept around fundraising. There was a great support network there, I think, as well. So I'd go along to the golf days, and Roger was his kind of life and soul, and so how he managed to do that, I don't know. That took incredible level of I don't know what the word is, frankly, but he was just such a lovely guy, and I will miss him greatly.
I think that's beautifully put. We spoke about Roger. We done the show a few months ago, whenever it was, and you referenced the interactions and things like that, and some scale there. And so he just sounded like, obviously never got to meet him myself, but he sounded like a wonderful man, a good husband, and a fantastic dad and grandfather. So yeah, I think that's a lovely tribute there, Bryn, for a wonderful man. And as you said, he's hopefully at peace now and at comfort, going forward. So what I'd like to jump to very quickly is about yourself, mate. What is it you're up to these days?
Yeah. Well, lots, really. How long have you got? I can do an hour on what I'm up to these days. So Leeds United is a big part of what I do. So I commentate on all the Leeds United games, home and away, and I do some university work. So I teach at the Leeds Beckett University. Bizarrely, I teach sports marketing, but not sports journalism, although I do teach some sports journalism students. So that's been something I've done for a number of years, because I've always done the FAW coach education work. That's ongoing. So I had a session, I was meant to have a session today, it's been rescheduled, but I do that kind of coach education role. That's led into some media coaching as well. So I've got some people who are doing media coaching. I'm doing media coaching with now, one-to-one media coaching. I've signed up for with a part of the project around the redevelopment. So I told you this was going to take a while, didn't I? The redevelopment project around Leeds United, around Ellen Road and South Leeds. So I'm now working. I've had my first meeting with those guys this afternoon. That's a completely different departure for me in terms of my previous experience. Well, not completely different. There are elements of my previous experience that I hope are going to help me in this new venture. But it's an exciting new challenge. I think we described that one as, because it's to do with redevelopment work and engagement, stakeholder engagement, all these things that people talk about these days, talking to people in the community, and then creating narrative around the way that the stadium and the entire site around the stadium is hopefully very soon going to be redeveloped. So that's something that is going to give me a new view on the way everything fits together, a bit more corporate than probably I've been used to in many senses previously, but it'll be really interesting and I'm looking forward to doing it. So that's some of the stuff. That's probably not all of it, but there's quite a bit in there to go at.
Yeah, actually, I think you mentioned last time we spoke with the university side of things and that, so clearly that's still going well then. Is that long term, would you say, keeping your hand in with the university stuff?
Well, I've been doing it when I left Sky, which wasn't my decision. So when I was told I was leaving Sky, the very first opportunity, and was in a big panic because I'd been a staffer for over 20 years at Sky, and now I was suddenly becoming a freelance unless somebody was going to offer me a proper job, which 6.5 years later, was it nearly 7 years later, they still haven't, but not like a full-time 9-to-5 type thing. So my panic initially when I came out there was, what am I going to do? I don't know, how's this going to work? And the first conversation I had post Sky was not with another sports broadcaster, it was with a university. So I got I was put in touch with somebody at Hallam University, Sheffield Hallam University. I got talking to them and they said, oh yeah, you can come in here and do some stuff with us. So that was the first, actually, that was really good, because that was the first after it, and there was some stuff out there, although it wasn't directly what I'd done in the past through the career to now take it in a different direction. So I did some stuff at Hallam. I then worked for a while at Cardiff Met. That was really good. Unfortunately, there is a tale around this, which I'll share because it's fairly brief, is that I got signed up to work. They have these full-time, part-time roles at university, or maybe it's part-time, full-time. So you're on staff, but you're only contracted for a certain number of hours. So I was on one of those contracts, working with the really good sports journalism, sports broadcast, I should say, Cardiff Met. So I was signed up to go and work for them. So the way that it was all set was, and that was my kind of half week, if you like. So that's what I got an Airbnb booked up in Cardiff City Centre, and that was for the first term through to Christmas. And I started doing that. So it was a hell of a commute, as you can imagine. It's 250 miles from Leeds to Cardiff, which I'm used to doing, but I was doing it on a weekly basis now. So I started doing that, and about a week or so in, I got my first look at it. The numbers didn't look familiar. I thought, that doesn't look right. So I checked, and it was right. And the thing that I'd done, having been on staff in a job previously, and before that I was at the BBC on staff, so I never really had to read a contract. I hadn't read this one properly, and the words that I'd missed, the 7 letters that I'd missed, were pro and rata. So what I thought was, I saw a big number and thought that was my number, but
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
my number was half as big as that, pro rata, you
Oh,
see. So I learned a very valuable lesson there. And that's to always read the Latin bits. And so pro rata meant I was actually getting half as much as I thought I was getting. And unfortunately, what that meant was I couldn't actually justify carrying on with it. As much as I was really enjoying doing it, because the great
yeah.
courses, good people to work with, I just couldn't carry on because I was actually losing money doing it. By the time I paid an Airbnb and I traveled, down there and back and all the rest of it, I wasn't making any money. So the experience was good. So I stuck at it through till Christmas. And I did a term there. And then unfortunately I had to call it a day. But I walked straight out of Cardiff, met into a meeting at Leeds Beckett, because they said, we didn't know you wanted to do, academic stuff. And so they then said, well, why don't you come here and do some stuff? So I think that was 4 years ago now. So I've been working at Leeds Beckett. So I go in there. At the moment, but it's interesting. I enjoy the opportunity to share what I've learned with people who are just starting on their routes now. So hopefully, if I can help them in any way, shape, or form, then that's good. I like the thought of being able to do that.
Amazing, mate. Before we start talking Wales, there is one I want to bring up for you from Paul. Evening, mate. Paul says, evening, Robin. I don't get a warm welcome myself, clearly. Evening, Robin. Warm welcome, Bryn. Bryn, can you have a word with Sky about these 12:30 kickoffs? Absolute joke of a time for fans to have to travel, etc.
Well, the good news is obviously I can't have a word with Sky about it at all, no, because my link with Sky finished the moment they decided that I wasn't working for them anymore. So I'm in the same boat as you guys. I hate it. My worst, and that's, remember, I'm still paying to go and watch games, right? So I've seen, I think, 18 Wrexham games this season. So when I go to watch Wrexham, I'm the same as everybody else. I'm hoping to get a ticket, and then I'm paying for my ticket, and then I'm traveling to the game. So my experience is no different from any other fan's experience on that basis. So when I see a 12 o'clock kickoff in London or whatever, then I just think, oh, these are how can anyone do this? Case in point, the week or so ago, I did the Wrexham Chelsea game on the Saturday I was commentating for BBC Radio Wales on that one, which was good. Then Tuesday night, Wrexham were at home against Hull, which was a huge game, arguably bigger than the Chelsea game. So I went back. For me, from Leeds to Wrexham is about 220-mile round trip. It's midweek. M62 is a pretty nasty motorway, and so I had to do it kind of through rush hour. So I went over on the Tuesday for the Hull game, but then there was another home game on the Friday night, and I just couldn't really justify another drive over the M62, third in a week. It would have been third in six days effectively. I just couldn't justify doing another one over there for another home game, so I didn't go. And it was on the telly, so I watched it on the telly. But I would never ever watch a game on the TV in preference to actually going to it, unless the exceptional circumstances. So I don't like it at all. The kickoff I personally really dislike is 8:15 kickoff that's crept in. I think it's probably a Premier League thing. Sorry, guys. What can I say? Something to look forward to, or not, as the case may be. But the 8:15 kickoff, I'm getting old, right? And generally speaking, I've got this alarm thing goes on my watch now at 10:20 or something, and it says health check. It's nearly time for your bedtime. Genuinely, this happens. So I'm then thinking, right, from about 10:30 onwards, I'm upstairs. I'm going to bed now, and my head's on the pillow before 11 o'clock, and yet here you are at 8:15 kickoff. I'm standing at whatever, before you've even thought about getting in the car, and then quite often the nightmare journey home, because they've closed most motorways between you and your destination. So I dislike intensely the constant shifting of kickoffs. numerous examples. The Palace Leeds game got shifted at quite short notice recently from a Saturday to a Sunday to do with their European involvement. And I'd made all the bookings. So I think a lot of fans will recognise this one. I'd made all the bookings already because you want to get your train cheaper. You've got to get in early. I always go to London by train. It's just easier than driving generally. And so I had to change it all around. And, there's extra cost on the hotel for changing it. I had to change the bookings on the trains and all the rest of it. It's just they do not is actually should be must look after rather than anybody else. And Wrexham are away at Birmingham coming up now on a Sunday. Now it's on a Sunday at 12 noon. Who does that suit? 12 noon on a Sunday for a big championship match. I don't really get who wants to watch a game of football on TV that they're not invested in. As a neutral, who wants to watch a game on Sunday at 12 o'clock?
Yeah.
I mean, most people are just getting out of bed. So I'm with you. I'm with you all the way, but there's absolutely nothing I can do about it. Sorry.
Yeah. I realised that anyway, but I thought I'd bring it up. I thought you'd have a say in that one. I know you obviously go to games and stuff like that now. So, yeah. So switching it up then. Obviously, little game coming up on Thursday. Only a small game. Want to start with selection, if I may. What was your initial thoughts on it? Any surprises for you, or is it pretty much as you would have expected, do you think?
Yeah, it is, because I don't think
Oh, you're breaking up a sec, Bryn.
I mean, it's an ongoing issue, isn't it? But you're not really blessed with too many. I don't think there's too many issues to sort when you're picking a Wales squad, generally speaking, because the pool's not huge. So I think the squad by and large has picked itself. I don't see that there's too much else that could have happened with it. I know the approaches were apparently made to Ashley Phillips just to try and bolster it in that particular area. But I think the bigger problem is always who isn't available rather than who is available. And that's the case again with this squad, isn't it? So no real surprises in there. I think I don't think there'll be any surprises really in terms of the team he picks either, because again, there are fewer opportunities to change things around than there were previously.
Sorry, you broke up a little bit there, mate. The notable absences, you could obviously Kiefer Moore not available, and obviously the experience of Ben Davis, most notable absences. Yeah, I know there was talk of that. Phillips, wasn't it? Maybe one for the future squads, things like that, but maybe it come around a bit too soon. I'm not too sure. Graham says, Kiefer Moore going to be a big miss. I think he will. They're a big, strong team, Bosnia. But you got to play to your strengths there and move them about a bit, I suppose. We'll talk a little bit about the lineup in a sec, and you got an idea, I suppose. And I think by the sounds of things in your head, what the 11 might be to begin with. I think majority of it picks itself, I think, though, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I would agree. I think Kiefer is a miss because I've been watching him a lot with Wrexham this year. He's had a great season with Wrexham, really has been in good form. And Wrexham have missed him when he's been out for these last few games. And they miss him because he's an alternative and he allows you to do something a bit different, to try and change the dynamic of a game, maybe in which is very tight. So you put Kiefer on. I think it would be brought on in this case. I don't think he would have started. But you bring Kiefer on it, and suddenly there's something different for defenders to deal with here. And because he's a good player and his touch is good, so he's not just a big battering ram. He's not just a guy to lump the ball into the air, but his movement's good, his touch is good. He's a good finisher. So he does offer a very sort of significant alternative. So suddenly you've tried this, it hasn't worked. Then you bring Kiefer on, and now you can try something very different. Basically, you can start putting the ball up in the box and see what he can do with it in there. And it would kind of give defenders who thought that they've got everything sorted out in front of them and it was all under control. It would give them a bit more chaos to deal with as well. So he is a big loss, I think, but I don't think he would have started. So they're going to have to cope without him and hope that the guys that they've got who operate those sorts of areas, none more so in that final group game, but they need that contribution from them now.
And and Graham brings up a good point here. I know you don't want to say fault of Cardiff too much these days, but it is similar with the Yusuf Saleh situation we have at Cardiff. He was the focal point, the big strong man who led from the front. We don't have another option like Yusuf in the team, and you can see it that the plan B obviously is a little bit different with league games because it's obviously week in, week out, sometimes twice, 3 times a week. Cardiff having to deal without it. So yeah, we get it. It's well known how much of an impact a sort of big man can have up front. Like you said, you haven't necessarily got to be that battering ram. Yusuf's not necessarily the case. He's got quality feet as well. So it's just good to have a plan B, isn't it? An alternative option instead of sticking the little man up front thing.
Yeah, and I think the modern defender is not entirely kind of geared up for playing against the old-fashioned centre forward. And I think sometimes I've seen evidence of it with the Leeds games this season, where Leeds have just been able to kind of disrupt the opposition, who are more used in the Premier League to kind of stroking it round as central defenders, passing it side to side to side to side across the back, without anybody kind of in front of them, immediately in front of them, or harrying them or charging them down, and or somebody who's trying to make runs down the channel, or who's just going up in the air with them and kind of throwing the arms around and stuff. There seems to be a sense that the modern defender isn't maybe used to coping with that sort of thing. So these are the circumstances where you can maybe change things a little bit by throwing Kiefer into the fray. But it's not available, and being a Wales fan has always been about who's missing as much as it is who's available, hasn't it? So you're going to just shrug and get on with it, I'm afraid, because it'll always be the case. You'll pretty much never get the fully fit, perfect squad.
No, 100%. I think looking at the team, do you think the back five? I would assume that pretty much picks itself. You're going to be looking at Darlow. I say picks itself. Some may argue, but I would go Darlow, De Silva, Williams wing backs, and I'd go Roden and Dylan Lawler ahead of Ben Cabango personally. Granted,
you would say that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. I've not seen. Granted, I've not seen a great deal of Ben Cabango this season, if at all. But I think Dylan, for me, should start. But you may and probably will say otherwise and go Cabango, possibly.
I mean, this is where you're looking at. This is the frailty in the squad. This is why they were trying to get Ashley Phillips in, because I think Dylan Lawler's looks like a hell of a prospect, but it's still and I know he's acquitted himself really well when he's had the international call-ups. He's come in so early into the setup, and he's got a great future by the look of it. But in a game of this magnitude, that's an area where you really want. I mean, Ben Davies is. If you're talking about players missing, I think, to be honest, Ben Davies is the big miss
100%
because
agreed.
he's so versatile. His level of experience is exceptional. He's been in this position now countless times previously. Brilliant guy to have around the place, just the absolute consummate professional. And he is a huge hole that they just cannot fill, frankly. So there is a problem in that centre of defence. And I mean, ideally, you want players. I've got to say, you really want as many players as you can playing at the highest level possible, and have. I've got to be careful here because I'm gonna get. You lot are gonna hate me, but to have players who are operating at League One level, it's a hell of a big call, because in the old days we used to call it the third division, didn't we? And so to have players who are playing in the third division playing in World Cup qualification games, that's other countries, bigger countries, that isn't something that you will ever see. So Wales have done brilliantly well to have that as a situation and to still come through. And Dylan Lawler's going to play at probably play a higher level within the next 6 months, given that you guys just about look like you're going to go up, although you're making a bit of a mess of it at the moment. But
the Cardiff way, Bryn. It's the Cardiff way, mate.
Of course it is. I'm sure you'll fall over the line. If only because everyone else below seems to have given up on it as well.
Oh, I know. Honestly,
but he'll play. So he'll play higher.
Yeah.
Ben Cabango's been playing. I mean, Ben's got more experience, obviously, but he's been playing in a Swansea side that's been real hit and miss, and have conceded a few goals along the way. So there is no. I would have to say in these circumstances that is an area that Wales will be casting around to see what there is out there, and that's where the Ashley Phillips bit comes in, because I remember well when James Chester got brought into the fold,
yes, right,
ahead of the qualification for Euro 2016, and James was they knew he was qualified, but it took him a while to persuade him to get involved in the squad, and did a brilliant job in there because he brought in with him sort of top level experience because he was playing Premier League football, and that's the sort of thing you just want to drop in there. What I will say is I've seen a lot of Joe Rodon this season, and he's been magnificent for Leeds. And Nico Williams looks like, even in a Forest side that's not been very, very good by and large, Nico Williams has been playing regularly and has been playing well. And Jade Silver obviously is in a team that's top of the championship and flying on a Premier League player next season. And I think it's important for the Welsh setup in general to have as many Premier League players as possible. I've got to say that. So Carl Darlow behind them, by the way, who obviously I've also seen a lot of, has also been playing very well. So Carl, who took forever to decide he actually wanted to play for Wales, despite is it Ken Leake, his grandfather? Despite there's such a strong connection with Wales family connection, that I know he's loving it now. And I had a quick chat with him about it after the game on Saturday, and he was really looking forward to meeting up. And he's with his pals. He's with Ethan and Joe and Dan, and they got on really well. And he's really happy he made the decision to finally to throw his hat in. So so Carl's a Premier League goalkeeper, so that's good news, because we've struggled in that position in recent times to have somebody who's actually starting
it's been
matches.
a long time, isn't it, since we've had a Premier League number one. It came. Even this has come about in unexpected circumstances, because Carl wasn't supposed to be Leeds number one at the start of the season. They'd signed Lucas Perry to be that, but he's lost his place, and Carl's kept his place. So that's good that he's playing regularly. And he's got a bit of a communication thing going on with Joe already, because obviously they play together week in, week out. I mean, another option would be to put Ethan in that back line. But I don't think he'll do that. Yeah, that was another option. If you go, oh, I suppose you've got the option with Ethan, if he does go play him as a defensive midfielder, he can revert to the back five. Then, if needed, if he puts Amsterdam and drops in between them, if it's wherever it is the centre back pairing, if need be, then you've got that extra defence reinforcement, which probably will be needed against both qualification games, if hopefully which they get through. That's the beauty of Ethan Ampadu, isn't it?
Well, Ethan, yeah, exactly, and he's played alongside Joe. He played alongside Joe for a long spell in the Leeds United backline. I think he's better position Leeds as a central defender, and the pair of them had a great run for a while, keeping clean sheets. So they know each other inside out, obviously, in terms of the way they both play. So that it's an option, but I don't think he'll take it. I think he'll see Ethan as being too important in that holding role just in front of the back line, would be my guess.
Before we move on to the rest, I'm just going to jump to a quick ad very quickly, and a bit of an unexpected advert, but I won't be 2 seconds now. We'll be back with you, okay, boys and guys?
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.
Awfully sorry about that. You quickly called me, so I do apologise. So there's one comment, I want to bring up from Paul, if I may. We have players who, when they can turn up in any big game, Bryn Johnson, Dan James, who I think need this type of game, big game players. My problem is, and I might get dug out for this, not so much Dan James, Bryn Johnson. I get the impression at times that he's not, and I may be way off the mark, and probably am. I get the impression sometimes watching him for Wales that he's not that arsed about playing. He gives off that vibe, like the tracking back is not great from him from what I've seen. Yes, there's talent and yes, there's quality there. I think the problem is as well, both club and country don't know what his proper position is. Is he a left wing? Is he a right wing? Is he a striker? Which I think is part of the problem in itself.
Is he a fullback?
Well, 100%. Exactly, mate. Do you know what I mean? Do we play him as a wing back? Because hasn't he done that for Forest now as well?
Well, he's been playing. I saw Palace Leeds. What was it, a week or so ago? Brendan was playing as a fullback. He was playing in the back line, and he played the previous game in Europe in midweek in that position as well. So he was being utilised because Brennan hadn't been starting for Palace, so he was getting a start, but he was getting a start as he's a wing back, isn't he? So if you're asking about his defensive capabilities, he's been having to show them for Crystal Palace, frankly, in this new role. He did okay. He did okay against Leeds. He couldn't get forward. Didn't really get forward. I think he was probably tied up with trying to defend, frankly. But yeah, I think that, and that's a bit of the conundrum. Palace obviously saw something very valuable because they spent 35 million quid to make him, at the time, their record signing in the last window. But I think they brought him in as an attacker. But I agree, I don't know whether he's better as an out and out winger, or whether he operates better in that kind of number 10, that in the whole role. And I'm probably still not quite sure which one of the two it is. The conundrum again for Wales is he plays in the Premier League, right? So you got to use him because he's in that division still for a reason. But the frustration is, you know, that he can be a really, really important player for Wales, and yet you don't always see that contribution in terms of what he's done in the course of the game. So, you know, the small nation, small squad, small pool, I should say, of talent. You want the most out of everybody. You really want everybody who's playing at the highest level to display that in the way that they play when they play for the national team. And
Yeah.
I would quit. I'd go against the. I've seen the comment about the uninterested bit. I don't think that can be the case. Basically, I'll be on call, okay, because there are ways and means to ensure that you don't get selected, right? So I don't think it's a case of him not being interested. Maybe that's the kind of the vibe he gives off a little bit, but that might be something to do with his general demeanor. That I don't think he's uninterested. Anybody who shows up for an international squad, I would say, is, because they don't do it for the national team, potentially picking up an injury which hugely negatively impacts on your club side, and you could be in the middle of something really big at your club side. So every Premier League manager or every team manager is dreading, you know, the news that one of their players has got injured on international duty. So you actually if you go along and join up with the national team squad, I think there's, right from the word go, you're showing a degree of commitment there, because it's actually easier not to go in this day and age for a lot of them. So he does come. I think he does want to do really well with it. I just, maybe it's in finding the way that he does that maybe it's in finding the role for him where he can contribute in a way that you know, shows him to be the player that he really is. I don't know. So there's one for Craig to sort out, frankly, because imagine if you have Brennan Johnson in there to join that kind of triumvirate, or that group in midfield of really exciting, so all the same physically, quite small but quick, and able to do things that are different. And as we saw in that last qualifier, you know, at times can overwhelm the opposition, completely overwhelm. We all want to see him be a big part of that.
100%. I think what sticks with me is, and I mean this in no disrespect to the players I'm about to mention, but he appears to have much more natural talent as a footballer than, like, I don't know, Sam Vokes, for example, or Hal Robson-Kanu. And when they put the Welsh shirt on, they seem to have had more impact, if that makes sense. You know, I might be speaking out of turn because of I'm thinking maybe about the iconic moments of these players and things like that. Maybe my judgment is clouded to a certain extent, but I don't know. Like I said, it's not me digging Johnson out, by the way. I'm not saying he's an awful player or anything like that by any stretch of imagination. I just think he could do with offering a bit more. I think he needs to find a proper home as a club with a proper position, and he sticks to it. And wing back or whatnot, he needs to stick to a position and run with it.
Well, from my own experience of playing football, and I am still, by the way, playing football, the less talented you are, the harder you have to work. So Sam's fantastic. He was one of my favourite ever players, but People like Sam maybe have to put in more of a shift because they don't, like you've already identified, they don't have the natural ability. They don't have that burst of pace or whatever it is committed, because at least they're being fitted. I don't know. It would be great to see Brennan just kind of answer the critics maybe a little bit. It would be no better time than in these hopefully next couple of matches for him to show, you know, what he's all about and why Crystal Palace paid 35 million quid for him, why Tottenham bought him in the first place. I mean, these clubs have scouting networks like you wouldn't believe. They do all the data work and all the rest of it. So there's like something in what Brennan Johnson does, for absolutely certain. So that they've spent big in acquiring his services. So there's a player there but there's no question about that. It's the challenge now for Wales to make sure that he gets the opportunity and he takes the opportunity as well. It's a two-way thing to show how he can shine in the international stage.
I suppose as well, it probably doesn't help him, you know, in his time in Spurs, how many different managers he's had as well. He moved to Spurs as a young man. He's obviously been there for a few years, grown, matured, and obviously played with some good footballers. But obviously, we all know what Spurs are going through at the minute. Cardiff probably be playing him in the Championship next season. But you know, that can't help matters. When you don't know, you're asking me an elbow with who's going to be the manager next week and what they're going to ask of you and what different style and shape and things like that. And then obviously going to a new club as well. So, you know, maybe I have been a bit harsh on him as well personally, but that's bound to make an impact. You know, we've had ex-pros on in the past and they've spoken very much so on different coaches, different philosophies and things like that. So I'm very much aware of what it can do, but agree though. Fingers crossed he can shut my fat mouth up now on Thursday and go and get himself a hat trick, and all will be forgotten. But yeah, what do you see the midfield attacking line looking like?
Well, that should be straightforward, shouldn't it? I mean, the key man in all of this, all of a sudden, has become Harry Wilson, because he's the one. I think in international, it's a bit like the Championship in many ways. You need in international football a core group of, say, 7 that you can absolutely rely on, who are good, steady 6 or 7 out of 10s every game, and then you need as many as you can get, but certainly 2 or 3 who operate at a higher level. And if you have that combination, I think you might have half a chance. And that's what that previous Welsh success was largely built on. You had a group of people like Sam Vokes, who are real solid, dependable, really good professionals, Joe Ledley and people like that. Who with a group, the core group, and then we were lucky enough to have the little bit of magic dust sprinkled on top in the shape of people like Gareth Bale and Aaron Ramsey, obviously, in particular those two, but also some of those really gifted players in different ways, people like Joe Allen as well, and Ashley Williams, who really achieved the peak of their careers playing international football. And so you've got in the Welsh team. Well, yeah. There were players who all hit their peak around about the same time, and it was a very happy coincidence. But you've got in the Welsh group a couple in there, but I think the one who stands out as somebody who's likely to do something different currently is clearly Wilson, and you need him plus a couple of others. So Brooks can do it. David Brooks can do it. I mean, what I really liked in that, it was a weird qualification campaign for me, because at times, so the Belgium away game, which I went out to, I think was like the classic example of where this team is at, because for the first half of the game, Wales were absolutely terrible, as bad as I've seen. And I was in Eindhoven for for the 7-0, 7-1, whatever it was. So I've seen some absolute hammerings down the years. So away in Belgium, we were all over the shop for 45, 50 minutes or whatever it was. And then for the next half an hour in the game, we played some of the best stuff I've ever seen Wales play. And to get back to 3-3, and then still contrive to throw the game away even after that. And there've been other halves in the qualification campaign where I've looked at, I thought they're all over the place here. They're defensively, this is terrible. And then in the same game, something switches and they're back on it again. And all of a sudden, those guys up front are doing what they were meant to do and flying forward. So the appearance given to me is that this team is really good going forward, right? And so if there's an opportunity to kind of bomb on and go front foot football, then there's a team there that will take that opportunity, seize that opportunity. The problem is if there's a team in there that's like canny and clever and has worked out that the fragility in the Welsh side is when you attack them, and if you do that with sufficient quality, you will get opportunities. And then all of a sudden you have another high-scoring game, and maybe Wales are on the wrong end of it, to be honest. So it was a qualification campaign where at times I'm thinking this football's absolutely fantastic, and then at other times I'm thinking this football's absolutely terrible, and that could be in the space of the same 90 minutes.
So are you thinking then false 9 Thursday?
Well, yeah, because there isn't a 9, is there really?
Well, that was going to be my next point. Because again, I don't like digging players out. I don't, because they're obviously doing a hell of a lot better in life than me with certain things. But you look at Mark Harris, for example. Obviously, ex-Cardiff City player. No, we know him as Cardiff fans quite well. Still baffles me that, and this probably goes back to your earlier comment of picking players in higher divisions and things like that, which I get, but I will be a little bit disappointed, I will say, if Mark Harris is starting on Thursday. I know he works hard.
Well, I mean,
I know he works hard, and I know he does.
And that's but he's playing in a team that are struggling to stay up in the Championship, and he's. I don't think he's a regular starter, is he? I'm not avidly following Mark's career. I've seen him play a few times recently. I saw him at the racecourse. Earlier in the season. But Oxford have found it difficult. He's found it difficult. So again, we've got to be realistic about where we're at here collectively. It is that Mark is not in an international team, in an international squad if he's not Welsh. Similar sized nations also that would apply to. So he gets an opportunity because there's a smaller group of players to pick from there. But that's always been the case. So what you hope is that Mark comes in, and I don't think he'll start this next game. I don't think so. We'll see. But I wouldn't have thought so. But if he came in, that he has to perform, he has to contribute, but he has to make sure he kind of just hits his own personal levels. He's got to play to the very, very best of his ability. If he dips off that, then everything will be more difficult for everybody. Because
I agree.
It's got to be a coming together of all the elements. Players playing at whatever level they're playing. The collective is always with Wales going to be better. It briefly wasn't with the wonderful Gareth playing, but the collective is always going to be much more important to the outcome than the individual, really, for Wales. Occasionally, somebody like Harry Wilson, they kind of run counter to that, but he needs the service to do the thing he can do as well. So, I don't think that Craig's got too many options really ahead of this one. I think I think most people could probably pick the team by and large for this game, and he needs that group of attacking players. I mean, I love it when you watch it, and they're kind of the movement. They're all over the place. They're popping up here, there, and everywhere. They're playing off each other. There's movement inside down the channels and all the rest of it. I think it's a great way to set up in international football, because it's so unpredictable. But it does come with a bit of a risk when you're playing high up the park and you want everybody bombing on and all the rest of it. The risk is that a clever team works it out and picks you apart, basically. So it would make it very difficult, because I'm still not quite sure, as I've already explained, I'm not quite sure where Wales are at currently. I'm seeing great things, and I'm seeing bits which worry me as well. So we'll see.
Do you think I'm yo-yoing a bit, so I do apologise. Should Wales be unsuccessful with the qualification campaign, do we see Bellamy taking charge in the next international game?
I would have thought so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, the only reason he wouldn't, I suspect, would be because he got offered something somewhere else, which is a strong possibility, by the way, because he's got enough credit in the bank from what
there was
he's done
the
with
Celtic links, wasn't it?
Yeah. So I mean,
there was the Celtic links a little while ago, wasn't it? That was possibly an option, wasn't it?
Yeah, and you'll hear more of that. If Wales don't qualify, you'll definitely hear more of that. And there's a strong chance he would probably go and take another job, I would think. And the issue with the international bit is that it's not really, well, it is a full-time job, but at times it doesn't feel like it. And I've talked to some of the guys about this. Gary used to talk about this, that you have these huge gaps in between matches. What do you do in that time? And some people just find themselves wanting to go back to the daily cut and thrust, of the club job. And for Craig, it would be well, he's had that role at Burnley and stuff, and he's had the role at Anderlecht before, so he'll feel that he's put in the hours on the training ground that would earn him the right to go into a full-time job at a club now. And he's right, because he's done the international bit as well. So at some point he'll want to test himself to see how he copes and how he fares in that kind of environment. So it could be sooner rather than later. So you've just got to be prepared for that all the time now, because where a manager gets an offer, they're quickly sacked. So where they get an offer, they're really duty bound to take it in most cases, to be honest.
On the flip side of things, when Wales qualify, are you going out there to watch?
I'd have to check my social media history first. Before anybody else did it.
Excuse me.
It's a good question. Do you know what? I'm gonna be honest here. I'm not sure I would. In fact, I'm going further than that. I probably wouldn't. And what is disappointing, in a sense, is that I think the World Cup is in a weird place at the moment. I don't know how much anticipation there is for the tournament, frankly. And as much as I know how important it would be to FAW for Wales to qualify, absolutely crucial. But from a fan perspective, does it look attractive? There's bits of it, maybe, but unfortunately, they're kind of the bits that aren't the American bits, and that's what Wales are potentially going to be landed into. So, the theories, it looked a great. Theoretically, it looked a great concept initially. Maybe, I mean, to go right back to the start of this conversation when we talk about daft kickoff times. Daft scheduling is now afflicting most international tournaments as well. And this idea of these three centres, which are thousands of miles apart, Canada, Mexico, and the US, and the onus on the fan to make huge journeys in between, particularly in between games, but at some point, if you stay in the tournament in between countries, the huge cost of the accommodation, the huge cost of the tickets. I mean, there's a big official letter of complaint gone into FIFA today about the ticket pricing, and the fact it would cost you £5,250 in tickets alone to watch 8 games through the tournament, and that's the standard price stuff. You know, that who are they marketing this World Cup to? I don't really get it anymore.
It's going to be Club World Cup vibes, isn't it? Remember, was it back last year? Well, when they had it?
Yeah, in the summer, and that was the pre. But they did dynamic pricing for that. They ended up giving away loads of tickets because dynamic pricing goes up, but it can also come down. And so students were getting given 4 tickets for games in the Club World Cup. My suspicion is that might happen here because there's certain games in this, because they've been increased the size of the World Cup anyway. There's certain games, and Wales might, if Wales hopefully, in many senses, of course, I hope Wales qualify. If Wales qualify and then they're playing a group game against lesser opposition, genuinely, how many people in America are going to be willing to spunk out hundreds of dollars on the ticket that would be available for that, or would be interested in having already bought the ticket and actually turning up to watch it? I think there's going to be a lot of those kind of games in this World Cup, and presumably there's going to be quite a few dead rubbers in it as well, because the groups, there's going to be some really weak sides in it, because you can see that from some of the qualifiers already, because it's such a big tournament now. So some teams are going to get proper spanking, I think, in some of these group games. So the whole package, actually, I'd love to go to Canada. I've never been, and I'm not sure about Mexico, because there's another country with a lot of stuff going on at the moment. I've been to the US and really enjoy it, and I like American people, but there's so much extra baggage attached to the whole thing now that I'm not sure. I'm really not sure about this one.
You look at the teams, Bryn, I'm just going up in front of me now. I'll only pick out a couple. You got Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Uzbekistan, Cabo Verde, Curacao, Haiti, Panama. I mean, okay, granted, I think Kosovo could still qualify. And this is no disrespect to them, don't get me wrong. But, okay, some of these countries are very close by, or closer by than what we are to them in terms of geographical settings. But who's going to want to see that? Like,
well, yeah,
World Cup game.
Well, that's the more say the $64,000 question, because I don't know who that market is in America. I mean, soccer / football is a tough enough sell to the Americans in many cases. I mean, the game is definitely growing there. By the way, I've been over and I've seen some grassroots football playing. I've seen how the grassroots game is growing big time in America. So that there is the sport is really establishing itself significantly there now. But still, how many people are going to be that invested to watch some of these tiny countries play, and probably play mainly very one-sided games of football? So unless you're kind of into the whole thing of going to a World Cup game because it's a World Cup game, then maybe you might be. Are there enough of those to fill all the stadia for all these matches? Because there are an awful lot of games taking place as well. So it's I don't know. It seems like a very big tournament.
New
played
Zealand, that's another
across
one.
too much. Yeah. Well, I mean, I doubt the Kiwis will be taking many with them, will they? To be fair,
Jordan,
and there's some countries operating under travel bans, so some places the fans are going to struggle to get into the country anyway. Even some of the admin team, and I don't know, the players may yet find it hard to get in the country. So that's just another level of the complexity around this tournament. They're just the timing. I don't know. It looks a very potentially problematic tournament to me. In a way, I hope I'm wrong. But if it was a problematic tournament, then I think it would be on the
we'll be surprised.
Be on the organisers.
So well aware of the time. I've got a couple of questions I want to fling you away. Before I do, a couple of quick questions from the chat, if that's okay, Bryn, mate.
Yeah.
Where's he gone? It was about the stadium. From Graham. Thoughts on games being switched to Principality Stadium? I personally didn't like the games there, which I concur. I agree with that wholeheartedly. What is your thoughts?
I would always say Cardiff City Stadium every time. I did loads of games. I worked on loads of games at the Millennium Stadium down the years, the Wales games, and it was, you always had the feeling that you were tenants in the Millennium Stadium. So you were dealing with Millennium Stadium staff, and you were there temporarily. And I'd go as far as to say it didn't feel like you were necessarily a high priority. I mean, we were there as the broadcasters, but we were still having to have conversations with people on the ground about stuff. And it was somebody else's home. It felt like playing in somebody else's home. And the Cardiff City Stadium has been an incredible success. I mean, I enjoy that walk up to the Cardiff City Stadium when you, for a night match, when you kind of turn the corner and then you see the lights and all the rest of it. It's got that real aura about a place that you want to go and watch the game in. And it's become a really good home stadium for Wales. And I think that's to an extent to do with the fact that it's always now pretty much full. And yet it's not too big, so it's still plausible to fill it, or largely fill it for most games. I've seen the plans to make it bigger, which are interesting, kind of exciting, but I don't know whether that impacts in terms of that atmosphere that it has at the moment. But there's been some fabulous nights there, so the players love it, the fans love it, and even the poor North Walians like my pals back home in Wrexham and across the northwest, who have the incredibly difficult journey, by the way, of getting up and down to Cardiff, for these international matches, because it is a pain in the arse trying to get to Cardiff from North Wales. But we'll do that willingly because they like going there. And whether the same would apply to the Millennium Stadium / Principality Stadium, it's a venue for another sport, that, to me. And financially maybe FAW it's an imperative. I don't know what the situation is, but to earn more money. But there's no guarantee that you get many more than 40,000 in there unless Wales are doing exceptionally well, because when it was being filled before, the tickets were 10 quid, weren't they? In that previous kind of carnation. So no, I mean, I've made a simple answer very long-winded there. The answer is I way prefer the Cardiff City Stadium to the concept of playing at the Millennium / Principality Stadium.
I think that's a unanimous decision from myself and those watching as well, to be honest with you, mate. Last one there before I let you leave. Can I get a quick prediction, if that's okay?
Oh, Jesus. I hate doing predictions. I have a calm thing going on, right? So I used to go out and do vox pops before games, quite often before Wales games. And you find yourself saying, what do you think the score will be? And when people say to you, I think we'll win 4-0, you're going, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Do you really think that? Actually, some people do. So
sorry, Bryn.
Just
you can sit on the fence if you want to, mate. And you can sit on the fence and hope for a good competitive game if you want to.
Well, no, I tell you what, I'll say that Wales will stumble through this one. 2-1, go on. But if it goes wrong, don't blame me, because I didn't want to do that, right?
And then when Wales get through, Italy or Northern Ireland?
Well, again, this one I can keep simple. Northern Ireland, quite clearly.
I think so too.
I have to say,
I think Northern Ireland's going to beat them.
Oh no! All right. Hold on a second. Which one would I prefer? I'm saying Northern Ireland. Which
Oh,
one do I
right, sorry.
expect? Nah. No.
I think it-
I expect Italy. I expect Italy. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, hang on. Wait, is it in Belfast or is it in?
It's in Italy. No, it's in Italy.
I gotta be honest. I thought it was in Northern Ireland. So, yeah, that could be a problem.
No.
But Italy are not the big boys they were, so anything is possible.
Yeah, but they've still got, they've still got a bigger talent pool than either Wales or Northern Ireland, by the way.
100% put together.
So, yeah, so their expectation would be, even if they end up playing Wales, the expectation would be that they win that game. Whether they do or not, we'll have to wait and see. Got to get there first, so let's worry about that one.
Yeah, no, I know. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's relax. Let's calm down and think about what time we got to get up in the summer to watch the World Cup for Wales. Bryn, it's been an absolute pleasure and delight. I'm so happy for you joining me again. Really, really appreciate it. Hopefully, if you're okay with it, we'll have a catch up again in the summer or something like that. If that's okay.
No problem. Let's give you a bit of that.
Yes, it is. Bryn Law is a Bluebird. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, don't go that far, man.
I'm not going to burn my bridges. Thank you all for your questions, comments. I'm sorry I've not been able to get through everyone. It's been absolutely amazing. Keep an eye on your socials. I'm not sure what's actually coming up tomorrow. But you know the score. Like, subscribe, share, and do all those fun malarkey stuff. But thank you all so much for your time. Have a lovely evening. Bryn, you're an absolute legend. Good night, God bless, and goodbye.
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.